We're still in chapter 6 of Sri Aurobindo's great book, The Mother. In recent weeks, we've discussed the aspects of Maheshwari and Mahakali and Mahalakshmi, three of the great four. We've also mentioned, as we've gone along, that the goddess tradition, the tradition of the Mahadevi in India, is very old, probably immemorial, but that as she begins to come into visibility in terms of texts and known recitations, it is in the Markandeya Purana that we first find her. The Markandeya looks like it was put together around 250 CE. Devi Mahatmya, the glory or the majesty of the goddess, seems to have been composed or to have reached a final form around 550 CE, because after its insertion into the Markandeya, there is hardly any change thereafter. Where when we typically look at Puranas, there's sort of a tableau. They have table placed upon table, placed upon table in the building of the old stories. But this aspect of the Devi is rather unique in that it doesn't shift. And most people who encounter the Devi Mahatmya are worshippers of the Divine Mother. It is a book that exists in a sense by itself. Nobody reads it as part of the Markandeya. They read it separately. And it has the kind of vintage and power in many parts of India that the Bhagavad Gita has. It's held in great esteem. This text that we have as the Devi Mahatmyam, when it's read separately, has a number of angas, limbs associated with it. There are 3 in front and 3 behind. The 3 in the front are the kavacha, representing the armor of the goddess. This is what you do with the litany in protection of yourself. The argala, the stopper, is another, which begins to deal with the ritual recitation. And the kilaka, the bolt, which is a very problematical text. But those form the first 3 angas before you meet the text itself. And in the text there are 3 great stories, of course, how the goddess comes to slay varieties of great asuras who threaten to destabilize or conquer or push into darkness the entirety of the cosmos. And then at the end of the actual Devi Mahatmya come another 3 angas, and they're called rahasyams. The rahasya is a term that means secret. So it begins to tell you what the inner meaning is to all of this. And the first is called pradhana, pradhanika rahasyam, which deals with the creation, the manifestation of the universe. The second, Prakritika, approaches the goddess as beyond all quality, nirguna. But then how does she bring the manifestation and maintain it? And the third is the section which deals with the murti, the many goddess forms that she will assume as she intends to come back to earth again and again to restore light and to restore balance. It's the story of her incarnations, in other words, yet to come. So what's interesting is that if you look at the popular traditions in which the goddesses are approached in mythology and in temple worship, you'd have no idea about the transcendence. So people, in reading Sri Aurobindo's book, The Mother, when they look back for textual support to say, where did he get this idea from? Where did he get this idea from? Perhaps it was something unique to his experience. Well, there is material in this Devi Mahatmyam in which not only is the goddess supreme, without consort, but the ultimate origination and originator of the cosmos and all the beings who dwell in it. But she is associated with Mahalakshmi, Sri Lakshmi. But this is not the Lakshmi of popular mythology, nor are any of these great forms of the goddess, Mahakali, Mahasaraswati, Maheshwari, simply greater versions of what we know in popular mythology. Because the Devi Mahatmya definitely, distinctly places the great goddess in her own realm of transcendence, beyond all the dualities, beyond all the manifestation. And there, you can't say that she is feminine. She is clearly not masculine. Neither is she neuter in gender. She is beyond all categorization. And the Devi Mahatmyam goes on in these angas, which are attached to it, I guess I should say, to describe what her life is in those sublime realms. Before she agrees to enter into the cosmic play, before she agrees to enjoin her powers to particular events in the space and the time of Earth. So when you look at the yantras which are connected with this, you find that Mahalakshmi sits in the middle, and she manifests to her right, Mahakali, and she manifests to her left, Mahasaraswati. And so too, she sits in the middle of the Devi Mahatmyam. So this tremendous power is above the manifestation and yet within it. And because power is needed, she comes forth with the power of Rajas. She is red. Mahakali represents the power conquering darkness, so takes on tamasic aspect. And Mahasaraswati, closing out the stories of the goddess, brings sattva, brings equilibrium, brings light. So we'll have occasion to come back again and speak about this, but I thought that we should say a little bit more about Mahalakshmi as we went along. So, to our text now. Mahasaraswati is the mother's power of work and her spirit of perfection and order. The youngest of the four, she is the most skillful in executive faculty and the nearest to physical nature. Maheshwari lays down the large lines of the world forces. Mahakali drives their energy and impetus. Mahalakshmi discovers their rhythms and measures. But Mahasaraswati presides over their detail of organization and execution, relation of parts and effective combination of forces, and unfailing exactitude of result and fulfillment. The science and craft and technique of things are Mahasaraswati's province. Always she holds in her nature and can give to those whom she has chosen the intimate and precise knowledge, the subtlety and patience, the accuracy of intuitive mind and conscious hand, and discerning eye of the perfect worker. This power is the strong, the tireless, the careful and efficient builder, organizer, administrator, technician, artisan, and classifier of the worlds. When she takes up the transformation and new building of the nature, her action is laborious and minute, and often seems to our impatience slow and interminable, but it is persistent, integral, and flawless. For the will in her works is scrupulous, unsleeping, indefatigable. Leaning over us, she notes and touches every little detail, finds out every minute defect, gap, twist, or incompleteness, considers and weighs accurately all that has been done and all that remains still to be done hereafter. Nothing is too small or apparently trivial for her attention. Nothing, however impalpable or disguised or latent, can escape her. Molding and remolding, she labors each part till it has attained its true form, is put in its exact place in the whole, and fulfills its precise purpose. In her constant and diligent arrangement and rearrangement of things, her eye is on all needs at once and the way to meet them, and her intuition knows what is to be chosen and what rejected, and successfully determines the right instrument, the right time, the right conditions, and the right process. Carelessness and negligence and indolence she abhors. All scamped and hasty and shuffling work, all clumsiness and apupre and misfire, all false adaptation and misuse of instruments and faculties, and leaving of things undone or half done, is offensive and foreign to her temper. When her work is finished, nothing has been forgotten, no part has been misplaced or omitted, or left in a faulty condition. All is solid, accurate, complete, admirable. Nothing short of a perfect perfection satisfies her, and she is ready to face an eternity of toil if that is needed for the fullness of her creation. Therefore, of all the mother's powers, she is the most long-suffering with man and his 1,000 imperfections. Kind, smiling, close and helpful, not easily turned away or discouraged, insistent even after repeated failure, her hand sustains our every step, on condition that we are single in our will and straightforward and sincere. For a double mind she will not tolerate, and her revealing irony is merciless to drama and histrionics and self-deceit and pretense. A mother to our wants, a friend in our difficulties, a persistent and tranquil counselor and mentor, chasing away with her radiant smile the clouds of gloom and fretfulness and depression, reminding always of the ever-present help, pointing to the eternal sunshine. She is firm, quiet, and persevering in the deep and continuous urge that drives us towards the integrality of the higher nature. All the work of the other powers leans on her for its completeness, for she assures the material foundation, elaborates the stuff of detail, and erects and rivets the armor of the structure. So we note that in the Veda, of course, Saraswati is not simply a wonderful river flowing through northwest India, untraceable, unfindable now, but represents the goddess power itself, coming out of the infinite, coming out of Aditi. She is the consciousness which is inspired, which has the range to act above in regions superior to the earth, and has the power also to touch, to descend into the earth, and to bless and bring rivers of inspiration to the poet, to the seer. And she, in later mythology, of course, represents knowledge, the great compendium that forms civilization, arts and sciences and all manners of vidyas hail from her. They associate her with Brahma. They say that she is his consort, but she is clearly associated with him simply because he has the office of creator, and she is there to empower and pour knowledge into the creation. So she has not been given her full credit in mythology, but Sri Aurobindo brings her directly into the picture here. You'll remember when we were speaking about his record of yoga, that often he found that the most rapid advance that he could register in his own sadhana was when he could induce Mahakali and Mahasaraswati to work together and achieve something in him. So his experience of all these goddess powers is intimate, not something, it is not simply that he might have read about it in mythological accounts, but that he had a deep experience, an ongoing colloquy with these powers, and knew how to bend his body, knew how to bend his will, how to raise his consciousness so that he could be in concert with them. Mahasaraswati here to him is not the goddess of inspiration. He's not speaking about her in that way, but he's speaking about her here as that aspect of the Divine Mother who insists upon perfection in work. And therefore, since his yoga aims at a perfection of life here in material nature, her work must be given great attention. People long for the touch of Mahalakshmi, they long for the power of Mahakali, They want that grand sweeping vision of Maheshwari, but it's actually this goddess power who has the most to do with reaching us to the siddhi, towards the fulfillment that we demand. But she does confer knowledge. She does confer inspiration. He has an interesting phrase here that for the will in her works is scrupulous, unsleeping, indefatigable, touches every little detail. Nothing too small, nothing too trivial. Attains the true form, puts in its exact place, fulfills its precise purpose. We have seen in the disciples who worked with Mother most intimately, who allowed their being to be molded by her, who offered themselves to the spirit of perfection, that they became like unto her. There is the account that we read of Kapali Shastriya, this great savant, this great master of knowledge, a siddha in tantric practice, before he came to the Sri Aurobindo ashram, and thereon went into the exploration of greater realms of spirit, the discovery of the psychic being inside, and the conjoining of the two, yet worked daily in the timber go down. And it was reported that when someone would come and ask for a certain weight of nails, for instance, this ever calm and composed Kapali would reach and with one scoop of his hand pick up the nails and place them on the scale. It would be precisely what they had asked for. And this because he was open to this power of Mahasaraswati, this insistence on perfection, being open to inspiration. He didn't have to guess, he didn't have to ratiocinate. Instead, his hand itself became intuitive, guided by her. And so was his life. But we can look into other examples as well of how MP Pandit, apparently a figure of constant work and powerful expression, yet had a sense of aesthesis and perfection, such that when you went to meet him, you found that his desk was perfectly appointed. Not a pen out of place, not a piece of paper awry. Everything harmonious. And so it was in all his domain. At office, at home, he was the same. He was the same in his own being. His consciousness was clear, lifted up, transparent, so that that will could manifest through him. And so too with Nolini Kantagupta and other great beings who came to serve the Mother, when they found in themselves this capacity to surrender to the touch, to be open and to be exact, then she could work best in them. And they could then stand as examples or as pillars that held up the rest of the ashram with and for her. This is so telling what he writes here. It's almost biographical about the Mother, isn't it? When he says carelessness and negligence and indolence she abhors, all scamped. Scamped is a word that means if you scamp, it means you're going about idly. If you're doing work that is apupre, it means that you nearly got it done. You almost achieved it. You were approximately right, but still not the perfection she was looking for. He says later in here that her revealing irony is merciless to drama and histrionics and self-deceit and pretense. Our mother was that way. She could unmask you if she wanted to. There are charming instances where people thought that they could fool her. That great anecdote that's in one of M.P. Pundit's books, I think, Sidelights on the Mother, where a person was trying to conceal a wrong thing that he had done from Mother. And he would concentrate before standing in front of her and making pranam. Again and again and again he did. And finally he couldn't face it anymore. He said, no, I'm being insincere. And he went to her and said, Mother, I've been doing this all the time. This is what I've done. She says, I know. She said, but how did you know? She said, it was peeping up over your head the whole time. Every time you came, he said, look at me, look at me. But she could use that revealing power, not always in a mocking way. She could be stern with those who needed it, but also when they really needed her to be the mother and to correct an incorrect course. A gentleman wanted to have things set up in a way that was convenient and amenable to his nature, and he wasn't getting it, and he didn't feel appreciated for the work that he was doing, and so he wanted to leave the ashram. And told the mother. She wanted him to stay. He insisted on going, so he packed his bags, and he came in a rather dramatic way to say, I'm going. And dropping all pretense, she just looked at him, put her hand on his chest, and looked into his eyes. And as she did that, he felt her boring into him, deeper and deeper, until she penetrated his ego and his vital, pushed it all to the side, and went straight inside to his soul, and touched that soul, which came rushing to the front. And he found himself weeping. And she said, so, do you still plan to go? He said, no, Mother. He took his bag and his things back to his room, and he never left the ashram. So, when we're ready, when we create that auspicious moment, she can touch us. She need not be in the physical body before you to so awake your soul. But that she can do. So again, this aspect of her, as Mahasaraswati, is the one that Sri Aurobindo noted was most at work in the life of the ashram. There were moments when she could bring in the swing of Mahakali, or the vast oceanic atmosphere that comes with Maheshwari. the love, the joy, the beauty which comes with Mahalakshmi. But she had to build a community. She had to build a life that reflected the powers of the Spirit, and that meant making it stick in matter. And for that, Mahasaraswati is indispensable. So usually when you met her, that would be the aspect that you would meet. I think we'll have a short evening tonight. I want to mention a couple of things to you. We're drawing close to the end of our work in the Mother. We have another week, perhaps 2, left in it. And after, we'll take up the synthesis of yoga. We'll do the introduction and the yoga of divine works, certainly. And we'll see how we feel. We'll take our collective temperature and see if we want to go farther or if there's another book, another work that beckons to us. So that's the first thing I want to mention. The second thing is that if you're familiar with our website, iksc.org, if you go there to the Voices section, you'll find that the page has been updated, and you'll find a great many more songs by Vasanti Rao and a great many more songs by her sister Jayanti Rao on there now, and you can stream them if you want to listen that way, or you can download them. I leave it to you. You can carry them with you from room to room if you like, but I think that once you hear them, you'll carry them in your heart. And by the way, we are talking tonight about the Devi Mahatmyam, and among the tunes that Vasanti has left for us, which are on the website, is Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu. That comes directly from the Devi Mahatmya. And so may that resonate in your hearts and in your mind. So I want you to know that. Enjoy. Many other aspects of the website have been updated, and we hope to continue to improve it. And if you have ideas for improvement, I'd love to receive them from you. Now, if you'll permit me, I'm going to read from Savitri. And we had a special request that the page be shared that we're reading from. So tonight we're in Book 2, the Book of the Traveler of the Worlds. Pardon me. Canto 2, The Kingdom of Subtle Matter. And this passage begins on page 107. Thus taken was God's plunge into the night. This fallen world became a nurse of souls, inhabited by concealed divinity. A being woke and lived in the meaningless void. A worldwide nescience strove towards life and thought, a consciousness plucked out from mindless sleep. All here is driven by an insentient will. Thus fallen, inconscient, frustrate, dense, inert, sunk into inanimate and torpid drowse, earth lay a drudge of sleep, forced to create by a subconscient yearning memory, left from a happiness dead before she was born. An alien wonder on her senseless breast. This mire must harbor the orchid and the rose. From her blind, unwilling substance must emerge a beauty that belongs to happier spheres. This is the destiny bequeathed to her, as if a slain god left a golden trust to a blind force and an imprisoned soul. An immortal Godhead's perishable parts she must reconstitute from fragments lost, reword from a document complete elsewhere her doubtful title to her divine name. A residue, her sole inheritance, all things she carries in her shapeless dust. Her giant energy tied to petty forms in the slow tentative motion of her power, with only frail blunt instruments for use, she has accepted as her nature's need and given to man as his stupendous work, a labor to the gods impossible. A life living hardly in a field of death, its portion claims of immortality. A brute half-conscious body serves as means, a mind that must recover a knowledge lost, held in stone grip by the world's inconscience, and wearing still these countless knots of law, a spirit bound stand up as nature's king. A mighty kinship is this daring's cause. All we attempt in this imperfect world looks forward or looks back beyond time's gloss to its pure idea and firm inviolate type in an absolute creation's flawless skill. To seize the absolute in shapes that pass, to fix the eternal's touch in time-made things, this is the law of all perfection here. A fragment here is caught of heaven's design. Else could we never hope for greater life, and ecstasy and glory could not be. Even in the littleness of our mortal state, even in this prison house of outer form, a brilliant passage for the infallible flame is driven through gross walls of nerve and brain. A splendor presses, or a power breaks through. Earth's great dull barrier is removed a while. The inconscient seal is lifted from our eyes, and we grow vessels of creative might. The enthusiasm of a divine surprise pervades our life. A mystic stir is felt. A joyful anguish trembles in our limbs. A dream of beauty dances through the heart. A thought from the eternal mind draws near. Intimations cast from the invisible, awaking from infinity's sleep, come down. Symbols of that which never yet was made. So let's make them. Yes. Much love and thank you again for being with us. Namaste to all.